Good day to you joining us on the Front Runner Football Podcast. And you may be very surprised to see light in the background for everybody. And that's because we're speaking on the morning after the big news that on the 8th of August, the ABSA Premiership, the Nedbank Cup, they'll all get an opportunity to come to a head, which is exactly what us as football fans, and of course, probably all the people who run and own and manage football clubs, and of course play in these teams, would have wanted everything to be sorted out on the field of play. I have my regular panel joining me in Velile Mnyandu, John T. Mark, and Mazola Molefe. And let's start with you, Velile, because you were there in the flesh at the press conference. We even heard you bleeding through the mics on air. How was that for you? I'm sure it was a sense of relief as someone who's so intrinsically linked to football as a journalist to finally hear that there is some resolution and finality. 8th of August on the way, football resumes.
Yeah, look, firstly, it's a space I hadn't been to since March, also, even just to report, so just to be there, it was just something, to really feel that we were really back in the groove. But obviously, by the time the press conference took place, we already knew because through different sources, we had been getting the information coming through from the BOG of what was happening. And also it had been reported also online in terms of the dates. And I think it was inevitable from how I gather, because the majority of the clubs wanted to play. And look, for me, and this is one of the things that I also asked to the chairman yesterday, to say, how important was this decision to come back, especially looking at the level where the PSL is on the continent. You have because the PSL is part of the World Football League's forum, and in Africa they are one of the top members of that group. So to see European leagues having just finished their program and some finishing their programs, and now seeing leagues on the continent like the Botola Pro League, which played its first matches in Morocco. In fact, we resumed its program last night. We also have the Egyptian League coming back next week. The Tanzanian League has just finished its program, and the Zambian League is on as well. So for a league which I rank as the top league in the sub-Saharan region, the PSL, I think it was inevitable that they're going to come back. But one of the things that the chairman emphasized there yesterday was that there is going to be zero tolerance on non-compliance. And a club which doesn't comply will not go to the BSE, And already he did say yesterday that there's a club that is not complying already.
Right.
And I read yesterday also that the Ministry of Sport has also been doing its own compliance monitoring, especially when it comes to back to training. I think they had been to 10 clubs already just in the PSL. So it can tell you maybe where that club is, because I think the monitoring team of the ministry is yet to start with the Great Africa teams. So I think this has been the bone of contention in the past few weeks between SAFA and the PSL around matters of compliance. So to hear it from the chairman to say, if there's a club that's not complying, it's not moving into the BSE, they're going to be very strict about that. So I think it's an assurance that there's going to. This is very serious. The PSL is also taking the lives of the players and the officials and everyone involved very serious here. And I think another good point to come out of that presser was also the issue of the costs, because some of the clubs which had been opposed to coming back and calling for the season to be declared null and void, they were complaining about the costs which are involved in terms of going back to In fact, in this PSE, you know, and you see, this is a very important point that the chairman made yesterday, that in the past 4 months, they have not stopped issuing grants.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And part of the obligations from the clubs has been to book accommodation. In fact, it has also been to book flights. And this time around, there's going to be no flights to be booked, you know? So the issue of course, so it's something that doesn't really hold
Right.
from also what the chairman is saying. So I think what is important now is all systems go. The games are kicking off next weekend with Nedbank Cup semi-finals, Sundowns up against Bidvest, Baroka up against Bloemfontein and Celtic. And then another important point was that the clubs which are not part of the Nedbank Cup semis will then move just before the league resumes into the BSE after they are done with this Nedbank Cup semis. And yeah, we start with, I think, the catch-up fixtures on the 11th in terms of the ABSA Premiership. And then the full program starts from the 15th.
Okay, there we go. Some clarity around the times and what's not as far as the resumption is concerned, Jonty. And I guess it dovetails quite nicely with what we saw at the weekend from SAFA regarding the referees being ready to go as well.
Yeah, obviously they said from August 1st, but the PSL have decided on the August 8th date. And then it was encouraging to see also after the PSL made yesterday's announcement that SAFA almost immediately came out with a statement saying they're also fully behind and ready to go. So there won't be another sort of miscommunication there. It looks like everyone's on the same page now and we're ready to go on August 8th, as Vilile said, with the Nedbank Cup semi-finals. It looks like the season will go into September with the Nedbank Cup final, the final game of the season, as is usual for the regular season, followed by the playoffs, which could drag us into which will take us into the second and third week of September. I was interested to sort of, I know Mazzola has been following the Wits story in quite a lot of detail. Obviously, they are set to make some people redundant at the end of August at their club. I think there may well have to be some negotiations to extend a few people's contracts, maybe by a week or two, just to make sure that they have enough staff on board to finish the season before they sell the club up. That's one thing. But obviously player contracts in general come into play again. If they've only agreed to the end of August, they have to now have a new agreement to take them at least to the end of the season. But I don't think, if clubs are honourable and honour those contracts, I don't think you can really get away with not paying a player for the first bit of September. And it has been moved there because obviously the PSL are not able to get everything done by the end of August, which is what they initially certainly wanted to do. But that would have entailed kicking the season off on July 18, and then SAFA sort of came in with a couple of other interests, including the referees. But like I said, it is encouraging now to see all parties seemingly on the same page, and that we can go ahead and finish off the season in this BSE. I was speaking to team doctor, SAFA's chief medical officer, Tulani Ngwenya, again today, and he reiterated that he thinks if everything goes to plan, if they follow all the procedures, there's only it's a very, 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 very small chance that there'll be an outbreak of COVID within this bubble if they can contain it. And it doesn't necessarily matter 100% that it's in Gauteng, even though, perhaps it's they didn't. Excuse me.
It's a source.
I just received a phone call in the middle of this.
His source is calling him.
Just turn them down. I've been in meetings.
Press.
I've been in meetings all morning, so I keep getting phone calls in the middle of the meetings and not outside of the meetings. It's just like Murphy's Law, I think they call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously
Not Michael Murphy, yeah?
No, it's not Michael Murphy. No, it wasn't him. I don't think so anyway. It was an unknown number. Moving back to what I was talking about is that, obviously as long as they're within the bubble, as long as they can keep it safe. And they'll be very strict, I think, as Velile was mentioning as well. They'll be very strict. Anyone who steps outside the bubble or violates the rules in any way or isn't ready will not be allowed back in, and that's as simple as that. And obviously, if there is a positive test, they will then move to isolate, for the necessary amount of time, and then hopefully contain the virus if there is a small outbreak within the bubble, which hopefully there will not be. We did have a story on Pagati yesterday that my writer, who's quite connected in KZN, got, that Royal Eagles, the Royal Eagles, apparently haven't got the money. This is what we've heard. They're claiming they don't have the money to pay for all of this and are considering pulling out. That's the South Africa Championship team, Royal Eagles. But this is obviously only coming from sources at the moment. There's no official from the club, and we wait and see. But if what the clause is saying about
to the ABC, then for them.
Yeah, I mean, what Dr. Koz is saying about, having these teams having grants for 4 months and having basically been able to sit around in their hometown and train, but not having to travel anywhere. What have it does have to beg the question, if they don't have any money, what have they been doing with the money that they get regularly? There certainly can't be much of an excuse from clubs. I mean, I have had also owners say to me, look, honestly, we haven't done anything for 4 months, so we should have money to pay for this stuff. So I think that, they can't really. I'm with Dr. Koz in a sense. The PSL have honoured their contracts in terms of paying. In fact, I think he said, if I'm not mistaken, that they don't actually have any duty to pay these grants to clubs, but they have kept paying them, and therefore the clubs must pay for them for their way. And if they don't, and if they're not compliant, as Valile mentioned, they simply won't be allowed into the Gauteng BSC.
There we go. And Mazol, I guess the cherry on top now is the fact that, as Velile had said on that hot mic yesterday, the eyes of the nation, with a slight vacuum of football being there, with Champions League and Europa League being there as possibly the only competitors for vying for people's attention. We're hoping for an authentic experience. We're hoping to hear the vuvuzelas in the background. We're hoping to hear the Wits band in the background. We're hoping to get a full experience from the broadcast as we've seen overseas.
Yeah, you'd swear Velile was influential in that BOG meeting, because he's been going on and on about this eyeballs statement that you need to have the league when the eyeballs are all there, and all the other leagues across the world have wrapped up. And it's true. I think, even yesterday after the announcement, I went on Twitter to say that I expect the TV ratings to go a bit crazy, as you can expect. Everyone is, already, even when life is normal, the PSL has some good numbers, especially on the public broadcaster. It's a pity that they don't have the outright chance to be the rights holders. They have to sub-license them. But the numbers are crazy when things are normal. So imagine now when people are at home, not going anywhere and glued to the screens and not being able to go to the stadiums. I think the sponsors will want to leverage this. Of course, there are other means and ways in which they do this via their activations at the stadiums, whether it's media activations or fan activations. They won't be able to do that to some degree. I suppose there's a way to maneuver around it if there's social distancing and health protocols are observed and all of that. But there'll be the eyeballs that Velile, has been talking about for months now. They finally get to do that. And it is interesting. Just last week, I was thinking of just trying to find out just how much money the league has lost and the sponsors has lost by the delay. But I think, I'm not, this is not necessarily my area of expertise, but I think they'll be able to almost recuperate all of that, if not to some degree, maybe even make it better if you just look at the TV ratings alone. So I think the broadcasters are salivating at having football back. People will be able to watch those games. And of course, for all of us, we are quite excited that this has been resolved. Obviously, there are issues in terms of, the vet situation that we've mentioned in the past, retrenchments and that. There's also just the injury concerns that Joshua Smith of Amazulu has raised, and I think also Coach Pitso has been quite vocal about needing more time and that. But I think the coaches by now, thanks to the delays, they've had enough time now. They've had enough time. By the time the league gets underway, they would have had, give or take, 5 weeks of being back in training. That's if you'd complied from the day that you were given the green light. I don't know about those that were cheating, that were training before lockdown. That's for the PSL to and the government to deal with that. But if you went back as and when you were given the green light and you passed all passed with flying colors for compliance, then you would have had about 5 weeks, which is pretty decent, because pre-season on its own is about 6 weeks before sort of the early stages of MTN8 and that kicks off. The concern maybe is that teams have sort of been training in groups. I wonder, there were some like Amazulu that I don't know if it was out of ignorance or not being sure of the protocols. They were posting pictures of a full 11v11, which is not allowed. You're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to train in groups of 5 at least. So Coach Pitso is one of the coaches that's spoken a lot about that, and I think a few of the players at Kaizer Chiefs have been on the club's websites and YouTube channels speaking about having to train in groups. It's different. How are you gonna bring that into a game situation? But I can't imagine it will be that hard, especially if you all know each other. But at the same time, you can expect a lot of injuries, which is why I think obviously the special dispensation to be allowed to use MDC players.
Okay, well, there we go. So everybody is winning, except now it's just the turn of the viewers and the journos to finally eat the meal that is South African football returning from the 8th of August. Moving on to the next story. This one is of a coach who plied his trade in South Africa and up till recently was welcome in Tanzania and now has been sacked, and rightly so. Luke Aimel being in the news for the wrong reasons, Velile, coming up with a strange tirade after his final match in terms of the season. The coach of Yanga SC coming out saying, "I don't enjoy your country. You're uneducated people. I am disgusted. I don't have a car, Wi-Fi, or DSTV. These fans don't know anything about football. It's like monkeys or dogs when they're shouting." Wow, talk about a way of getting yourself out of a job and possibly keeping yourself out of a job for a few years to come if the powers that be take that and decide to censor him even more, Velid.
Yeah, look, Kamza, I listened to the audio on Sunday night, and it was really disgusting. To come from a coach who's been on the continent for close to a decade, if not more than that, and who's been to different regions on the continent, North Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, and here in South Africa as well, coaching some PSL teams. It's really disgusting. But look, I'm not really surprised coming from this man, because he does really have this kind of a mouth that he has, and the mind that he has as well, that is in the gutter, Also, for me, what's really disappointing here is that he gets caught up in these things where he just comments and also about the area where he is in now. Also, he doesn't seem to respect the people. He doesn't respect anyone who's around him. And I was also reading the quotes from, I think he had an interview with SFM yesterday, where he was trying to defend himself. And I don't know how we can defend yourself after that video, where you just go. You see, even besides the issue of the Black Lives Matter and what, the timing also now is just not right.
Yeah.
Especially for a European, in Africa to be calling people monkeys. No, I mean, it's just not right. And not that it was going to be right even outside this window. You know what I mean? So yesterday I spoke also to one of the people who was involved in taking him to Tanzania from South Africa, and he was also sharing with me that what it had been some months now. Yeah, we're not talking to him because he had enough with him, And I remember also having a conversation with another friend who wanted to get through to Coach Steve when just before Luke Emal, I think, went to Black Leopards as well, and at that time we could see that the tone was conciliatory, and this guy was coming across as someone who's changed. And this is one moment now, even for those who had been doubting Steve, and when Steve was vocal about this man and the type of an individual that he is, especially towards Africans, there it is now. It's vindicated. Yeah. And I looked at Luke Emal's track record. Luke Emal has never coached higher than the 3rd division in Belgium. He's never coached higher than the high. And the only thing that we get told is that no, he's a UEFA Pro licensed coach. But this man has never coached higher than the 3rd division.
Yeah.
But in Africa, we embrace it. And it goes back to what I was saying here last week. If Ibenge was European and white, he would have long coached in this PSL.
Sure.
Sure. It tells you something. It tells you something about our clubs as well. And already, even with that kind of an attitude and behavior, there were already comments yesterday that Luke Emal already has a job or an offer for next season on the same continent. I was just happy that Yanga released him, and also the Tanzanian Football Federation is also reported him.
That was huge. I think what the FA did in terms of following that up, and not just leaving Yanga to sack him, but to follow it up with the world's governing body to report him to the ethics committee. I mean, if FIFA are serious about plugging out racism in our game, they have to at the very least, a 10-year ban from football. He shouldn't be allowed to work for some time after those statements. I also listened. I think it was a Sunday night when the audio got sent to me, and I listened. I think it was either a post-match or a radio. It sounded like a radio interview, and he was talking about how he's disgusted living there. His wife is disgusted. And look, if you're trying to get out of a job, which is clear in that interview that he had been trying to get Yanga to release him from his contract, and they were not budging. Yeah. That's not how you go about it. You don't go by insulting people and calling them monkeys and showing your true selves. And I've said before that when Luke was coach of my hometown team, Bethlehem, I went to his office and sat down with him to do an interview. He was very, very cordial. He was very respectful. But I guess he's now gone and shown his true colors. I would have never thought that he's that type of a character. And look, he has no place in our football. And I'm glad that it didn't just stop with the club sacking him, but the FA also following through by sending a complaint to the FIFA ethics committee as well.
Yep, let's see how they take the one up.
We're saying these things also fully understanding that there are coaches, European coaches who've been on this continent for a very long time, and they've been respectful to us as Africans. Sure. And also they've made this continent home to them. If you just look in our country, I mean, you can look at the likes of the late Ted Dumitru. You can go back to Jeff Butler. You can look at a number of these coaches who came from Europe, the Walter Rotmans and them. And we're here for a very long time. You look at someone like Manuel Jose in with Al Ahly, and the time that is spent there. There are these coaches who've been here for a very long time, especially also with the national teams as well. But we cannot tolerate this type of individuals. These characters, and we've had some of them. We've had some of them who come also to the PSL, and then the first degrading thing they would ask you, especially if in a press conference, they'll say, "No, you can't ask me that question. Have you played football?" You know, you see, that's when you start to say, "Oh."
Yeah.
Then
The
this is the first one.
mentality.
The mentality, now you know what else is going to come up, because the comment that led to monkeys, it was a football related question, because it was a football related comment about fans not understanding football, behaving as monkeys. You understand? Now this mentality that the fans and the journalists and everyone else cannot ask you or cannot have an opinion on football matters. We might not have played football at the highest level, but at some stage in our lives, we played football.
Right.
And some of us were not just journalists just because we wanted to be in this space, but we were also driven by our passion for the game or for sport.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is degrading, and also these guys with their European pro licenses, the UEFA pro licenses, why can't they coach in Europe? If you're telling me that he's not coached even in the second,
he's not even coached the under 9. He's not even coached the under 9 in Belgium.
No, I think when I was looking at the clubs there, he's coached the highest division. He's coached the 3rd division. But here he is degrading Africans, and this is a man who's made his money.
Millions.
He feeds his family.
Yeah.
His millions.
Yeah.
For the past decade or so, here on this continent.
Yeah.
And then here he comes here and calls our people monkeys. To hell with him.
Yeah, no. Good riddance to Luke Emel, and shame on any club that tries to engage him as a coach, especially after this. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Mazola, I know you might have to leave soon, so just wanted to find out real quick. Alan Clark has decided to resign with immediate effect at Lidota Duba, citing another opportunity overseas as the reason that he decided to call time on his time in the north.
Yeah, Kamza. I actually just spoke to him just prior to our podcast, just trying to understand the reasons. Because, when you hear Black Leopards coach resigning, you immediately start to think the worst. You immediately start to think, oh no, what's David Tidiela done now?
Right.
But Alan says he's got a massive opportunity in Europe, and obviously as a young South African coach who he feels he had done well at Leopards to try and steady the ship. Obviously, they are still bottom of the table with 6 games to go. I think the battle for survival now just got tougher for Black Leopards, because they now have to find a coach. Probably I would assume Morgan, who's the assistant coach, will probably step in for the remaining 6 games, because there really is no point in trying to appoint someone else from outside the club who hasn't been working with the players since lockdown. So Alan is off to Europe. He wouldn't say where in Europe, but he says it's a club that's is going to push for Champions League or Europa League qualification next year, and it's an opportunity that he couldn't miss. He says he signed the contract already, so he resigned with immediate effect at Black Leopards, and his family is going to immigrate along with him. So I assume he's leaving pretty soon, because pre-season, that part of the world is probably about to kick off. If not just a matter of getting it started already, because obviously they've also been under lockdown and lost a lot of time through lockdown and the current situation as well. I then put through a call to David Tidiela. Sounded surprised, sounded shocked that Alan is leaving the club. And wouldn't want to comment any further, and referred all calls to his son, General Manager Chifiwa Tidiela. But, it is what it is. Alan has confirmed that he's leaving the club. Yeah, I just think on the one hand, it's exciting for Alan, a proudly South African coach, young, somewhat obviously inexperienced, but he's been in the shadows of Kevin Johnson for some time at Amazulu, and obviously took over the reins as caretaker coach at Black Leopards when Kevin Johnson was suspended. And obviously, although they're still in that relegation dogfight, he was probably hoping to help the club survive in the remaining 6 matches, which that on its own is a tall order. But so we celebrate Alan getting an opportunity abroad as one of our own. But at the same time, for Leopards, it looks like this could be the final straw in some ways, to lose a coach. At least Chipa, when this happened to Chipa with Rulani, they still had 3-4 more weeks to get Lehlonololo Siema in and start trying to understand his philosophy and maybe stand a chance. But with Black Leopards, I'm afraid it's going to be a tough task. It's going to be a tall order, even if they bring in someone within the club. But let's see. Stranger things have happened. You never know how good teams have been in their training, their preparation since lockdown. Right. You might find that they have the edge. They could have the edge. I think their goalkeeping crisis they might have overcome that now, maybe with Jonas Mendes and other goalkeepers coming back. Remember, just before the suspension of the league, they were using their third choice goalkeeper in the last couple of games. And I'm not sure if Jonas ever left the country to go home during lockdown. If not, then he would have recovered and he should be back because he's been a decent signing for them this season and has won some games for them and kept some clean sheets here and there, although he's also conceded quite a lot, but not bad for a first season. But yeah, let's see if Leopards can survive this. But for me, I feel like this is just the final straw and could make or break their dogfight for relegation.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, John T, it sounds like, Alan was also kind of hedging his bets, looking at the track record of, am I going to keep this job even if I do the impossible, and what conditions am I going to work under in the following season? Decided just to kind of say, you know what, actually, let me just take this other opportunity, maybe looking at more stability moving forward.
Yeah, look, I think especially in times like this when, the economy all over the world is not stable, but you've got to look at looking after your family. He probably got a good offer in Europe and he had to take it, and he felt it was the best thing for him. I mean, Leopards don't have the greatest reputation for hanging on to coaches or being loyal to their coaches, or being, with all due respect to the TDL, the best run club in the country. I think that it's better for him if he's made a decision that's better for him. I think he's quite an integrous guy. From my encounters with him, he certainly seems to know his stuff, and I wish him all the best in Europe. As Mazola did say, though, I think Leopards are perhaps a bit doomed. Though obviously it's very unpredictable what could happen in terms of when teams come back. It's quite difficult to say. Form sort of goes out of the window. So it could be that Leopards find a way under the new coach or their caretaker coach to survive. It is very tight at the bottom of the table there, and there's a lot of teams potentially in trouble. So it really will be a case of whoever trains the best, whoever gets themselves ready. Also, in terms of getting ready for the new season, in terms of your training camps, how you best manage getting up to speed. That's also going to be interesting to see what teams have managed it, what teams haven't, what teams have injuries. I think it's all going to play a part, but certainly it's not good for Leopards that they lose the continuity and the leadership they had from Alan Clark leading into the unwanted break due to the COVID pandemic. But if they appoint their assistant, then I guess they will still have a little bit of that continuity. And I think, as Mazola said, that is the best thing, because then you've only got a few games left in the season, and then at least you keep playing in the same way. You can't have a new coach coming in and changing up the formation and changing everything up again. But I just want to also add to what the gentlemen, I think they spoke passionately and brilliantly about Luke MIL. But from my side, I always hate it when a coach is accused of racism and then follows up with, saying he was quoted out of context. I'm not sure how those quotes can be taken out of context. And then also posts a video of himself doing a Black Lives Matter salute. And then the Black Lives Matter salute is brilliant, but, stop trying to prove you're not a racist by showing yourself doing a Black Lives Matter salute does not work for me either. No. And I think really that was unacceptable, the way he spoke to SAFM. He did apologize initially for his comments, but that was not acceptable. I think, it's what he said was unacceptable, and he should accept it as that and take whatever punishment comes his way.
Yeah, no, certainly his heart wasn't in it. But speaking of those who have their hearts in it, Mazet, Velile, I'm sure at the weekend your mentions were blowing up. Sundowns fans loving your assessment of their signing strategy. And maybe I must call out Fidel, our producer, for his choice of soundbite. Mazet, how was it? Have things calmed down now?
Yeah, well, I mean, if here's the thing. What I've learned is that if you just ignore the comments, they eventually go away.
Yeah.
You add fuel to the fire when you comment. Because then they see that they've got your attention, and then they come at you guns blazing. For so sure. What I did, because I know and understand the context, and I also know that I'm not the only one who said that. I mean, all three of us here said the same thing, almost, But obviously, our producer kind of set me up there to use my sound bite, because already I'm persona non grata by the, as far as some of affection of the Mamelodi Sundowns fans are concerned. So, Spiwe was a little bit naughty there. He set me up because the reality is that what I said was also sort of echoed by John T, was echoed by Velile as well. So I don't understand how I'm the only one who got attacked. But I would assume as
you already have his through the fan base.
Exactly, and also I assume the fan base did not actually click on the podcast to listen to the whole thing.
Right.
They only just listened to my soundbite and made up their own minds. They didn't listen to the entire thing in its context. They didn't bother to hear what Velile had to say. They didn't bother to hear what Jonty had to say. But I just decided not to say anything.
Sure.
And I knew if I don't say anything, it will just die out.
Well, like water off a duck's back.
And this is my request. I know that there are people who religiously are always looking out for our podcasts. Don't just listen to the short clips. Those short clips are just meant to introduce you to the topic.
Right.
Please click on the whole podcast and listen to the podcast, and also to get the context of where the comments are also coming from.
It's interesting to see in terms of that, and obviously now with Sundowns, even Coach Pito kind of coming out and saying that jersey sometimes ends up being heavy, and they've got a good mix. They'll bring in Lisedi Kapinga, who's kind of on a free transfer, but then at the same time, they're looking to, promote the likes of Malebogo, Modise, for long-term maybe cover for the likes of Langaman. So, it's not just us who are echoing those sentiments. There is from club within itself saying that, listen, not everybody that we bring on, as much as we have the best intentions for them, is going to make it, Jonty. And sometimes that jersey is going to be heavy.
Yeah, look, the simple fact is that there are Sundowns players who've made it, that they've signed, and Sundowns players who haven't been used as much.
What would you say is the percentage there? More have
I don't want to say a percentage because I'll get. I don't have the percentage in front of me.
100%.
I'm not going to make a list, but you've got the likes of Aubrey and Ngoma, the Jeremy Brockies, who didn't make it, and the likes of Sibusiso Vilakazi, Tapela Morena, who have done very well. There's 2 and 2. There's a 50-50 balance I've given you there. There's other players certainly all over Sundowns that haven't made it. I just think that obviously the Sundowns fans do get a bit tetchy on social media. I don't think it's unfair to say. They get very defensive of their club, as all supporters of a team do, but they sometimes take it a little bit too far. I don't think there's really a need for that.
I heard Chelsea supporters do the same.
Everybody's allowed to have an opinion. Well, I got a bit angry with some Man United fans on the weekend when they kind of implied that they'd, I don't know, done something remarkable by finishing third above Chelsea. But that's also maybe I think we're all passionate, but that you can take it to a certain level and then you can take it beyond. And if if you can't have like a rational argument, then it gets a bit silly. And that, unfortunately, sometimes social media is a place where you have people sort of just attacking other people, and I don't think that's like really necessary. But like you say, I think Kapinga, time will tell with Kapinga. I think you know, he's a young player. He's got a lot of talent. He you know, he was very good for Leopards, despite their position in the table. Or he has been, and I hope he's really successful at Sundowns, and he fights his way into the team. I think at Sundowns, if you go there determined enough, and if you apply yourself, and obviously also you have to fit into the coach's plans, and sometimes tactically it doesn't work out for a player, and sometimes you do get the impression, like with Nico Mobi, for example, that perhaps the coach hasn't signed the player. But I think, you know, Pizzo's spoken very well of Kapinga, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. And time will tell. But everyone's entitled to an opinion, and certainly everyone's entitled to an opinion when it comes to Sundowns and their players, and perhaps that their players won't make the impact that's predicted. But
I wanted also to just touch on the issue of Sundowns, especially this boy that they've just promoted now. Malibogo Modise. I mean, this is a boy who's been with that development academy, I think, for 6 years now. And if you look at it, in his second year in the academy, that's when he made the under-17 team, right. And he was part of the under-17 team. I'm just not sure if he really went to the under-17 World Cup, but I know that he made the under-17 AFCON. Which Amachimbos won and eventually qualified to the Under-17 World Cup. And then he worked with Thabo Snong after working with Melissa Nseki, and went to 2 Under-20 World Cups. And at some stage, I think we were returning from a World Cup in South Korea in 2017. And I was wondering, why is this boy not getting promoted, you know, getting promoted and then maybe get loaned out. But I heard that Coach Pizzo didn't want the boy to go out, you know. I think maybe he wanted to monitor him there at Clorco. But eventually, now he's been promoted. I've seen him playing as a left centre back. He can also play, his original position is the left back, but also he can play left wing as well. And the good thing with the boy, and he's played also for Bafana in the Chan and Kosafa as well. The good thing, he's got this international experience. So now, if anything were to happen to one of the current players, it would be easier for him to slot into a Champions League because I mean, that is 11. Sure. As I'm saying, for the past 5 years, he's been playing international football, you know, but also. At what, 21 or 22, 21, yeah. You also understand that there's a possibility that he could get loaned out, you know, to get regular action. Because if we look at Sundowns now, if they really get Modiba, you know, if they get Modiba, and they have Langerman there, they have Lakay there.
Musalibu Usa, who can play that side as well.
Yes. So chances of him getting regular action, or even sometimes not there. But maybe look from next season, you don't know if Langa will still be there. But I think for me it's good to see them promoting these junior internationals. If you look at someone like Promise Mkuma as well, you look at the boy they've just signed, Pewa from Real Kings, also another boy coming from the under-20, a fine midfielder, a future Bafana player, top player, that is going to be. So you know that yes, they are signing some of these guys, they are promoting some of them, but some of them are not necessarily going to play, and they could be loaned out. But look, it's part of refreshing the team. Different clubs use different models, you know. But it's good to see the intention, because Gavin Hunt once said something. I think the guys at Kickoff once asked him something about, I think it was Kaizer Chiefs at the time, and the mistake that they made of not refreshing their team. It was catching up with them, because you cannot let a team grow old together.
Sure.
Along the way, you have to refresh. But you know that as you are refreshing them, they still need some senior players within them, you know. But along the way, you have to refresh the team. And I think that's what Coach Pizzo is doing with that Sundowns team.
Okay. Before we wrap it up, just very quickly, in terms of Highlands Park, murmurs that they're still, looking at a exciting offer for them, and of course, run by businessmen who know that, at the end of the day, if someone's providing me more value financially for this club than I'm willing to put in, then I'll let it go. There's no problem with that. But could we see a situation where we have a second club in one season having its status bought by someone else outside looking to get in? Mazur?
Yeah, I think quite possibly. Last week I did a story that obviously there was a value put to the Highlands Park status, which was about 55 million, which sounds about right. The going rate of a top flight status, unless you are Bidvis Vids and you sell it for about 30, and then you sell off your assets, which are the players, to make up the bulk of the money for the sale.
Right.
Yeah, but there was that story, and then I was told obviously that anybody who can obviously come up with that money, including Tim Sukazi, if they want it, they can have it. And then I think it was Mark Stradom who then had a story subsequent to that. I think it was on a Saturday afternoon, having spoken to Larry Brookstone, who indeed confirmed that they received a mega offer, for the sale of the club, and they were not, and I'd obviously also had a interview about, I think it was the 23rd of June or the 13th of June, sometime in June. I had an interview with Brett Kaftel, co-chairman of Highlands Park, in which he kind of explained their thinking behind potentially selling the club is that they're not actively out there asking for people to buy the club. But if someone comes in and they evaluate the offer, at the end of the day, they are businessmen. If they look at the offer and they feel like, okay, especially in this COVID-19 situation, because at the time I spoke to him, there had been no football for about 3 months, and their businesses obviously had been struggling, and they were definitely contemplating selling the club if the right offer came. And sounds like there has been an offer tabled. And we'll find out in the coming days, because if that goes ahead, that means the new owners would take over ahead of the new season. But other than that, other than Larry Brookstone confirming that there's a potential offer on the table, we've heard nothing else from Leopards. So not Leopards, I mean Highlands Park. So in the next coming weeks, potentially it could either collapse or it could go ahead, because here's the thing: Owen Dagama is already lining up a job to TTM. He's been approached and offered the job. He does still have 1 year left on his contract with Highlands Park. So yeah, interesting. Football is coming back, and looks like we are not running out of stories as were the early days of lockdown. Football is coming back, and yeah, news galore. So the podcast, please. Don't just don't just watch the sound bite, get into the whole thing,
Get the whole
context. Don't just listen to me saying Highlands Park could be sold and then you take it as gospel, but you don't understand the context behind all of that.
Yes, they mustn't have
I did also speak to Tim Sakazi, and he said to me he's not interested in Highlands Park.
Yeah.
Okay. But he also, to touch on what Velile said, he said he left Celtic to the people of Bloemfontein, but given that the people of Bloemfontein don't seem to have sorted Celtic out, perhaps Tim Sakazi will revisit that, because he did also say that he is still potentially interested in buying a club.
Sure.
Buying a top flight franchise. He just said that 55 million was out of his league.
Well, let's speak about that number, Velile. 55 million for a club that are currently topping off the top 8. They've got some decent players in that squad. They could end up possibly with the resumption of football in the top 8 still. 55 meter, is that a fair valuation? And do you think someone might see value in that? Also thinking about your point, the eyes are going to be back on now. There's a lot to kind of drive up the price of the league if things get done right after the resumption.
Look, the status of the PSL that we've seen previously would go for anything between 40 to 60 million. And Mazola has also he said it also depends if it goes with the assets also being the players, or you just sell the status on its own and then the players. But you see, the danger of not selling the status with the assets, the players in this case, it would mean that whatever happens to the players, as the club that you are selling, you will have to settle with the players, especially those who have contracts which are still continuing. And this would be the problem. So 55 million, if you look and assess the type of players that Highlands Park has currently, I think, in my opinion, it's a fair amount of money that they are looking for, but depending also on the negotiations between the two partners, the potential buyer and also the seller. But look, this issue of Highlands Park, if you really follow it, and possibly selling, is not something that started now during this lockdown.
For sure.
You know, even from their first season, they were flirting with selling the issue of the status. And I remember even when they had just been promoted, there was this talk that they could go. And sometimes I feel that selling the status is a quick buck for the
like
for the
flipping
club.
a house. It's like you buy an old house, fix it up, and then you say, "Cool, let me sell it."
Yeah. Because all they want is just to get promoted. And once you get promoted, you know that you are getting that 2 million plus monthly grant, and then you just have to work on getting other commercial partners and top it up sometimes with your business money. But there are a lot of benefits as well, because owning a football team, especially as a businessman or as a community leader, it's also about your profile as well. It's also about profiling, you know.
Like a big business card, big nice
fancy exactly. So there's a lot that comes with it. But there are those who come from lower division, because if you notice, some of the guys who are selling are guys who are coming from lower division. You know, once they get up, they just sell. You know, Highlands Park, Team Sugas, and I knew this would happen, not because at Safja we had this interview with Lebo Mukwena, but there was just something that I just don't trust this, you know. And also where it was coming from, this sponsorship of 40 million or 35 million or 38 million at the time. And now I hear that, no, those talks between Max Chabalala and Lebo Mukwena about possibly sponsoring or even buying Celtic have collapsed. And apparently now that issue of Celtic is back to square one. So,
as in the ball is in Tim Sugazi's court now again, or just that they are available to talk to anyone who's interested?
Well, what I understand right now is just that Lebo Mukwena and Max Chabalala's talks around sponsorship or buying shares or being part of the club, those talks have collapsed because apparently the potential buyer now, ingati cash ayikho.
Why? Where did the cash suddenly go, Manj? From the beginning.
COVID-19 has gone dry. No. Most businesses have suffered during this period.
Unless you're in the PPE business.
Unless you're part of the looters.
Yes. Let's see. We must buy clubs.
Jeff Bezos as well, in one of Amazon or Netflix or one of these companies. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for a great mix of views. Obviously, stuff pertaining to this season, but it's also to kind of, round out the conversation. Nice to speak about players and situations that we'll see the long-term effects of in the long run. Thank you very much to my panel of Jonty, Mazola, and Stavej, the only one of the three who hasn't figured out how to put the emojis on the screen. These guys started doing this thing, Stavej. Maybe they can tell you how they do it. I don't even think people get to see that, guys. But thank you. I appreciate the sentiment. All three of you with a thumbs up. Safja in the house. Thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up on Thursday again. But yeah, appreciate your impressions and appreciate you tuning in to the Front Runner Football Podcast, the Daylight Edition. We'll do this again in about 48 hours time and hopefully have more meat on the football bone that is South African football to digest. Until then, from myself, Gamzambata, and the team, take care.